Welcome back to Misty Mountain Gaming. I'm the D&D wannabe. My name is Rob, and cover may be the most underrated and underutilized mechanic in Dungeons & Dragons. Cover, for those of you who don't know, just means some kind of obstacle between you and something that might harm you. Usually this manifests as some kind of physical barrier between you and something that you want to target with a ranged attack or spell, or vice versa. Let's face it, you're probably aware of cover already because it's something that we seek out in real life whenever we face something that's dangerous. Whether it be combat or inclement weather, a dangerous storm, or a natural disaster, cover is something that we seek out to protect us from things that frighten us. I mean, there's an entire genre of video games based around cover, the cover-based shooter, that has popularized the infamous chest-high wall. Popular games like Gears of War and the Uncharted series fit neatly into this genre, where your entire attack strategy and, let's face it, survival strategy is based around finding and properly utilizing cover. But in D&D, at least in the games that I participate in, cover is often overlooked. It's underutilized, or at least not utilized often enough. Heroes don't cower behind cover, they have no need to hide. Or at least that seems to be the sentiment. Even though it's the tactically sound thing to do, the realistic thing to do, and probably the best trick to making sure that you and your party come out of this encounter alive, it's often forgotten about and cast by the wayside. Maybe, just maybe, we need to be making better use of this mechanic and understanding it better. So, let's talk about it. Are you ready? Let's begin. So there are 3 stages of cover in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. There are half cover, 3/4 cover, and full cover. And as you might imagine, they represent the amount of a creature's body that is protected, that is visible, or rather invisible, to the creature making the attack, thanks to some interposing object. And also, like you might expect, the benefits that these stages of cover confer increase with every step. So we'll start with half cover. Now, you probably guessed, this means that only half of the creature's body is visible because the other half is protected or blocked by some interposing barrier or object. Something along the lines of a piece of furniture or a low wall, or perhaps a narrow tree trunk, or maybe even another creature who is in the way, much like me sitting down in this chair behind this table. When you or another creature is benefiting from half cover, you get a bonus to your armor class, or AC. This is because it is marginally more difficult to hit a target that is presenting a smaller target. For half cover, this is a +2 bonus to your armor class, identical to carrying a shield, which is not an accident, by the way. A creature benefiting from half cover also receives that +2 bonus to their dexterity saving throws. This is because they could presumably, momentarily, dive behind that cover to mitigate or avoid incoming damage. Think of how Captain America dives behind his shield to avoid damage from an oncoming explosion, or how cowboys in the old westerns would dive behind an overturned table to avoid a hail of gunfire. Sure, you might still get hit and hurt, but that damage is going to be a little less and a little less likely than for someone who just left themselves exposed. Next up, there is 3/4 cover. This, as before, represents about 75% of your target being hidden from view thanks to something being in the way. Maybe your view of the target is being blocked by a wide tree trunk, a statue, a dresser or wardrobe, or the infamous chest-high wall. Usually 3/4 cover represents almost all of your target being hidden from view. Maybe just their head poking over some shelf or barrier, or around the corner of a wall, or maybe barely visible through an arrow slit or small opening. Creatures that benefit from 3/4 cover also get a bonus to their dexterity saving throws and armor class, this time to a tune of a +5. That's more than double the bonus granted by half cover for those of you keeping score at home. We'll come back in a minute to just how significant that is, but for now, let's go ahead and cover the final stage, full cover. The most cover a creature can benefit from is full cover, to be completely hidden from view from their enemies. Creatures benefiting from full cover cannot be targeted by enemy attacks and spells. They're not even an option. They're effectively immune to harm from enemy forces. Well, practically. The bonuses that cover can grant to you or to your opponents cannot be understated. They are incredibly impactful and could maybe even turn the tide of an encounter. I'll show you what I mean. To give you an idea of how significant these bonuses are, let's compare them to a different mechanic in 5th edition that could grant similar bonuses. Spells. To match the bonus to your armor class granted by standing behind half cover, you would need to be the recipient or beneficiary of the Shield of Faith spell. It also grants a +2 bonus to your armor class, but it requires your bonus action to cast, so it's taking up part of your turn or somebody's turn. It costs a spell slot, which is a fairly limited resource, especially at low levels, and it requires concentration, meaning that it limits the kinds of spells that you can have active or be using at the same time, and that it can be ended at any time if the guy who cast it gets punched too hard. Not to mention that it's a pretty exclusive spell. Only clerics and paladins have the opportunity to bring that spell into an encounter, and they might not have brought that spell today. It's not always going to be available. Or you could go stand behind an armchair and get that +2 bonus to your AC until you choose to move. On the other hand, to mimic the bonus granted to you by 3/4 cover, you would need to cast the Shield spell. The Shield spell, also a 1st level spell, requires a spell slot to cast, requires you to bring that spell into battle today, costs your reaction, so it's also taking up part of your turn, and while it doesn't require concentration, it only lasts for 1 round. Next time that you want to be protected, you're gonna have to cast it again. And like the Shield of Faith spell, it's only available to 2 classes, sorcerers and wizards, give or take a few subclasses. Or you could go stand behind a tree and receive that bonus until you choose to move. Then there's full cover. It's roughly equivalent to the Greater Invisibility spell. You could say that it's equivalent to invisibility, but since you can still attack and cast spells from behind cover, I'm going to go with Greater Invisibility for the sake of argument. Greater Invisibility is a 4th level spell, which means characters below 7th level can't even consider it an option. And even when they can, it takes their action to cast, it requires concentration, that high level spell slot, and it can be broken at any time if they get punched too hard. But, much like full cover, Greater Invisibility does make a creature untargetable by enemy ranged attacks and spells, except for ones that include him in a zone of effect. Or you can duck behind a corner, dive behind a boulder, or close the door to the room. And this is important, there is no equivalent mechanic for the bonus that cover grants you to your dexterity saving throws. There is no class ability or spell or magic item that grants you that significant a bonus to that save. Certainly no other mechanic that is available from the very beginning of the game to every character of every class and race. Everyone can use cover. That is the true beauty of cover. Everyone has access to it. You don't have to train to wear heavy armor. You don't have to prepare certain spells for the day, use up precious resources, attain certain magic items, choose certain classes to be able to enjoy a higher armor class and better dexterity saving throws. Everyone can use it. So do use cover. It stacks with everything. The bonus granted by cover goes on top of your traditional armor class granted by your armor, on top of your dexterity, on top of your unarmored defense, on top of mage armor, on top of your shield, or the shield spell, or the shield of faith spell, or any magic items that you might have. It is just one of many powerful tools at your disposal to keep your characters safe from harm, and arguably the most powerful. Certainly the most accessible. That's it, guys. That's the cover video. Hopefully, next time that you roll initiative, you will dive behind some obstacle and fight the good fight from behind the safety of some sundry object. How do you use cover in your games? What difference has it made? Is there a reason that you don't use it? Whatever it is, let me know down in the comments below. Until next time, friends and adventurers, farewell and Godspeed.